From development to flooding to 526, those are some of the issues that concern Charleston businessman Maurice Washington. And that's why he's running for mayor of Charleston. I sit down exclusively with Maurice for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Listen to this interview later on my free Quintin's Close-Ups iHeartRadio podcast. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Maurice Washington, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Man, I'm glad to be here. How you doing?
Great.
Good.
The last time I actually saw you was a couple of months ago. I've been speaking with you for a couple of weeks now.
Right.
And it was one day then you had to go for a run and obviously got ready for the fundraising halls with Tommy Baker.
Yes. In fact, I think I was standing on the outside.
Yes.
And someone just kind of quickly moved by, tapped me on the back.
Right.
That looked like Quintin. So it was you. You didn't look back.
That was
you didn't
me.
say hello. You just tapped, and you kept going.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. All right. Should have came in. That would have been
Fun. And they're talking about
it. Yeah. Come on. You
gotta be unbiased here.
You would have been welcome.
Okay.
It's always good to see you.
Likewise.
Honestly, you're doing great work. I see all of the interviews that you pushed out last week, the week before.
Yes.
You're just doing a number of these things.
Absolutely.
Pretty good.
Yes, sir. Here for the public.
Yeah, well, and you're doing a great service for the public.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I know you want to have a great service and be able to provide a great service to the public by becoming the next mayor of the city of Charleston.
Yes, indeed.
You ran for mayor 4 years ago.
I did.
From 4 years ago to right now, what is the biggest difference about being a mayor of a big city like Charleston?
You know, there's not a whole lot of difference in 4 years ago and today, Quintin, other than the fact that we're 4 years later and we're still conducting business as usual. And I don't think it's in the best interest of the city that we continue to engage business as usual. I don't think it's sustainable. I think we need to do things a little differently. We need to manage overdevelopment. We need to protect green space. We need to protect wetlands. We need to engage the school district and be true partners with education partners in developing quality neighborhood schools. We need to have serious conversations about the future of work, the kind of work that would enable people to earn the type wage that enables them to make a rent payment or a mortgage payment and still have money left over to put food on the table, pay utility bills, and still do quality lifestyle things and activities with their loved ones.
What is the quality of life in Charleston right now in your mind?
I think the quality of life for some is pretty great, pretty darn great. But I think there is a community of people that are struggling to make ends meet. And all you have to do is walk outside of these doors and you see pockets of success, but you also see pockets of failure. And I believe that it's time that we focus on bringing more people into the pool of success, where that quality of life is elevated and more people enjoying what this precious city has to offer.
Mm-hmm. Let me get back to what you said earlier. Business as usual. How do you describe that now, particularly with the city of Charleston?
Business as usual to me is more development, more filling in of wetlands in order to accommodate development. Not engaging the education system and the education of our children. It's just being stagnant in areas that we need to be more aggressive in. And those areas are areas like education, like workforce development, like parks and playgrounds and returning children with their parents to that particular environment. Really focusing on jobs and wages and real workforce housing development, not the type that we currently engage in, that's not sustainable. But tying affordable housing to education, job training, and workforce development.
As a matter of fact, I read the article from the Chronicle, which Barney Blakely wrote just recently about you. And in this, you said this from your, I believe, from your website, and Barney wrote in the article, it says this: study after study shows African Americans earn 60% of what our white counterparts earn. While unemployment rates in Charleston have declined since 2008, the black unemployment rate still is more than double the unemployment rate for whites. When you look back at 2008 to right now, what else are you seeing when it comes to unemployment, and particularly for African Americans?
I see wage that is stagnant for African Americans. Really, the wage for African American has not really moved in the right direction for the past 20 years. That's not good. I see still about 90% of African American children attending minority schools in Charleston County, coming from households in the 90 percentile poverty rates. That's unacceptable for this city, this wonderful city. And I'm sure it's not only unacceptable to me, but it's unacceptable to all citizens who care about equity, inclusion, and fairness.
When it comes to your alma mater, Burke High School, what is unacceptable?
Well, look, first of all, Burke is not on the failing school list, right? And I know that perception is there, but it is not. The challenges at Burke are unique to Burke in that Burke has real talented leadership in Principal Quintin, for example.
Right.
Some excellent teachers, right? Students who are making the grade, performing exceedingly well, on par with some of the best performing schools in the district. Burke has a low enrollment problem, and that causes people to become a little nervous about, is that a sustainable education entity right now? It's built for some 1,400, I believe, 12 to 1,400 students, and it's below 400. It's not a good use of the taxpayers' money. So we have to find a way to grow that enrollment. I believe the student population is here. It's a matter of more parents entrusting their education to the faculty and staff and administrators of Burke High School.
Stony Field. What should the future of Stony Field be like in your mind?
You know, I grew up playing football at Stony Field, from 8th grade to 12th grade while a student at Burke. And I see they are doing some field work right now. I hope they do some other work, like the restrooms, the concession stands, the bleachers, the overall box of the stadium itself. There's a lot of history there, a lot of legends, and a lot of incredible memories created at Stony Field. And it's always going to be a special place in the hearts and the minds of a whole lot of people. And so I'm really, really happy about what's happening with the field. But I think more needs to be done in the areas of renovating the concession stands, the bleachers, the press box, and the overall exterior, the landscaping, and everything else.
Let me move from Stony Field to Hanover Street. A shooting Thursday night in downtown Charleston's East Side neighborhood left one man dead. Officers were called around 7:40 p.m. to the scene near the intersection of Hanover and Columbus Streets, says Charles Francis, a Charleston Police Department spokesperson. The victim, who was identified only as an adult male, was transported to MUSC where he later died. And we know now that it was a 41-year-old white male who used to worked at Darling Oyster Bar on King Street.
Yeah.
When you look at the East Side, when you look at gentrification and crime, What goes to your mind?
The East Side has an incredible history. I'm a Charlestonian. I grew up in Charleston, and friends of mine I grew up with from the East Side of Charleston, and it has seen some bad days and years, and it has seen some wonderful days and years. It's changing. It's under transformation. My church, Ebenezer AME Church, is there at 44 Nassau Street on the east side. Absolutely. I chair the housing committee for my church, and we have about 27, 28 affordable housing units all on the east side of Charleston. So we're trying to make a difference. We're doing a lot of interior, exterior work to be a good church community, both inside and outside of our church. And we started a third Saturday a month food giveaway program as well. What happened the other night is unfortunate. Someone lost a son, a dear friend. We lost a citizen by way of a gun, and that's not acceptable. The East Side community deserves better than that image portrayed a few nights ago. But I think the community of people, of good citizens who have goodwill, good intent, will bounce back from this, and we're going to have a better East Side community at the end of the day. And I'm looking forward to working with residents of the East Side to see what kind of things that my administration will be able to do to bring about a higher level of quality of life.
What is the quality of life right now on the East Side in your mind?
Well, it's now a diverse community, and you could tell that major investments are being made, private investment, not necessarily public investment, where folks are once again attracted to the East Side. And so this attraction is bringing about an increase of new residents, and for the good. And what we need to focus on, okay, so how do we embrace that while at the same time protecting and preserving the diversity that has been a part of the history of the East Side since I can remember. So new development, new focus, new interests. We just have to find a way to keep long-term residents who love the East Side, who have given blood, sweat, and tears to its development over the years. We have to find a way to ensure that they're not pushed out.
You talked earlier about affordable housing. In the city of Charleston, how do you describe it? Workforce housing or affordable housing or attainable housing?
Well, that is a very, very complicated issue. But here's what I do think, Quintin. I believe that public-driven affordable housing efforts are not sustainable unless we package it with education and quality jobs. Most people, the majority of people, they don't want government determining what's affordable or what's not affordable. They would rather be given access to, and their children, quality education, quality job training, good wages, so that they themselves can determine what's affordable versus what's not affordable. So that they themselves can determine where to live and where not to live, as opposed to relying on government to determine or make that determination for them.
How do you get government out now?
I'm sorry?
How do you get government out of this now?
Well, I don't know if government needs to be out of it. I think there's a role for government. And but I think there is a broader need for government to provide the kind of support and leadership that would ensure that every citizen, every child, every citizen receive a quality education regardless of zip code. Education is the driving force, in my mind, behind quality of life, ultimate quality of life. To the degree in which you are educated determines, to a large degree, your overall quality of life. Now, once the education comes into play, you got to have and attract good industry here, good jobs, good wage jobs, not necessarily focusing on increasing minimum wage, but the kind of jobs that that people can afford to make a rent payment, a mortgage payment, have money left over to pay the utility bills, and have a sustainable social lifestyle with friends and family.
Who's the driving force behind education in Charleston now?
School district, obviously, and the school board. You have the school district, school board, superintendent of education. But I've always believed, and I've always said, that education is the business of everybody. It is everybody's business. It determines the vitality of a city. The quality of education determines the vitality of a city, the economic vitality of a city, the quality of life of a city, the overall happiness of the people of a city. It impacts crime, right? It impacts every facet of life as we know it. So it's primarily the school district's responsibility, but if you take it full circle, it's actually everybody's business. And responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Would you be in favor? Because I'm hearing rumors of the North Charleston mayor basically saying, hey, he might call for consolidation of schools. Would you be in support of that?
Well, we have a consolidated school board as is now. I'm not sure if he's talking about North Charleston City,
right,
actually taking over its schools. I haven't heard that. I'm not sure if that's what he is thinking. However, there are cases where cities across America have done so because they understand the linkage between quality of life, economic development, crime, and everything else, and quality education.
Let me turn over to development and obviously the islands. The Johns Island Cross Island Road. What is that vision in regards to the Johns Island Cross Island Road in your mind?
If you're referring to the Greenway across Johns Island to Kiowa,
yes, sir,
and Seabrook, I'm not sure if that's still viable. Years ago, there was talk about that as a possibility, a safety evacuation measure for citizens traveling from Kiowa, Seabrook, under the threat of a major hurricane. But I think the pushback against that from Johns Island residents has been so strong. I haven't heard any talk about that in quite some time. Having said that, because of overdevelopment,
okay,
I do believe that we have to find ways in which to address the amount of traffic on those old historic roads of Johns Island, the Bohicket, actually named after Native Americans that paved those historic roads by foot traffic. only having been paid, I think, back in 1954. The canopy moss oak trees, they're narrow, but yet they're deadly and dangerous. And no infrastructure has gone in, but a huge amount of development have taken place at Johns Island. So something needs to be done, but it should be citizen-driven and not government-driven. And I'm looking forward to working with the great citizens of Johns Island to create and develop some solutions that they can embrace, not necessarily what City Hall may want to enforce upon them.
What is your relationship with those residents on the island?
I know some, and I have great relationships with the ones that I know. And I'm looking forward to getting to know more of them in the coming weeks and months, and especially if we win in November, working hand in glove with them to make sure that we design a Johns Island that's unique to their interests, and we don't try to force urbanization or what we have here in Peninsula City, Charleston, on them.
Let me go back to the Johns Island Cross Island Road, because if you were to look back then to right now, and if you were a mayor back then, what would you tell African American leaders, particularly the church leaders on the island, about that road?
Roads, actually. There's Maybank, there's Bohicket, there's Maine, and first of all, if I were mayor back then, there wouldn't be the kind of overdevelopment taking place out there now. I mean, the type of development that's taking place there now, if I had been mayor, I would have moved to put in the proper zoning measures and land use planning measures that would have controlled development. I mean, and it would have been vitally important to make sure that the infrastructure were in place to deal with whatever future development that were earmarked for Johns Island. I think it's vital that Johns Island current lifestyle be protected. If folks wanted an urban type lifestyle, they would be pushing in here on the Peninsula City. They're at Johns Island for a reason. They're West Ashley for a reason. They're at James Island for a reason. They don't want what we have here in Peninsula City. They want growth, but they want smart growth. They want development, but they want smart development. And they want development and growth that fits the current character of their unique areas. And those are unique areas. Wetlands, mom and pop stores, the ditches and everything else. So I think all designs of future designs or development should be citizen driven, and I just look forward to working with them.
Let me get back to Cross Island Road right now.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Would you, if you were mayor today, would you approve of that?
The Cross Island?
Yes, sir.
No, not today. But we still have to come up with something to relieve the hazards that exist at Maine and Bohicket and Maybank. Something needs to be done. One of the things I think needs to happen is we have to slow down growth and overdevelopment. Honestly, we have to slow down the growth and the development. And that will require working hand in glove with Charleston County Council, because it's not just our zoning, it's their zoning as well. It's not just our growth management plan, it's theirs as well. So not only will the City of Charleston need to come together to figure out how to get this thing right, we got to find a way to bring the leadership of County Council to the table as well. And I think we can do it. I think we can get it done. I think the citizens of Johns Island deserve that and having it get done.
Speaking of County Council, 526. Is the 526 extension in your mind dead or alive?
I think it's still alive.
Do you support it?
5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I did.
Okay.
Now, fast forward, I'm having second thoughts about it. Only because there are so many other pressing needs right now. Flooding, folks are being just damaged beyond imagination with rising sea level and tidal flooding and hurricanes and storms, and it's destroying a vast amount of properties. It's driving insurance rates up and flood insurance and home insurance and everything up through the roof. It's so disruptive to people's everyday quality of life, particularly now the tidal flooding piece. So when we look at 526, something needs to happen there as well because of what? Overgrowth, overdevelopment. Nowadays, I don't believe that the solution to traffic congestions in that area is to expand roads and extend roads. Without what? Without proper zoning and planning leading that process. Because if you extend roads and expand roads without the proper zoning and planning measures, more development would then ensue, would follow, exacerbating the problem. So we need to find ways to do it. And I think we can. I think we can find solution-driven ideas that residents would buy into, but all must be at the table, even those in support and or against. We just have to talk about it and see where we go from there.
What are your ideas?
Well, my idea is to, one, control overdevelopment, control growth, expand the growth plan, the Charleston County growth boundary plan, and put in additional protective measures. There's good work going on at Glenn McConnell Parkway right now that would alleviate some of the traffic jams and move traffic along more expeditiously. That road project should be completed in about 2021, 2022, somewhere in that ballpark. I think we have to say no to additional development, particularly development that requires filling in of wetlands in that general area. I think the pitchfork idea at Main and 17 is something that can be done right now to bring about traffic congestion relief, and so. But that requires what? Cooperation from county council. They control the half-cent sales tax money, but there's the money is in place for that right now, without compromising future plans or completion plans of I-526.
That half-cent sales tax, was that a bait and switch issue for you?
You know, I don't know. I don't know if it's a bait and switch. I do know that we have about $200 million for road improvement activities or projects. I think we can accomplish some drainage improvements out of that bucket of money right now. I think for whatever reason, folks are sitting on the cash. Maybe for the sole purpose of putting it all towards the completion of I-526. I think it's foolhardy not to fix current conditions that we can address right now to bring about some relief right now. And as mayor, I certainly would work like hell to bring county council around to addressing conditions throughout the city of Charleston, but also work to be a real partner with county government, so that we're working regionally to address issues that impact all of us.
Would you support changing zoning to match the county to discourage annexation and increasing density?
Well, you know, annexation is an important tool for local government.
Okay.
Cities must be able to grow and expand, and when you become landlocked because you have a no annexation policy, I think it's an unwise position to put a city in. Okay, I think it creates maybe too much government. I mean, right now we have a town of James Island,
Right.
we have a city of Charleston,
Right.
we have a city of North Charleston, we have public service districts, we have Ravenel, Hollywood.
Right.
You know, you have a lot of governments here, and you have a lot of governments with their own personal toys, you know. City of Charleston just recently, I mean, some $12-13 million for its own crime lab. I mean, come on, are you kidding me? That's money that could have gone into infrastructure to address flooding and everything else, and we could just as easily play off of the SLED, State Law Enforcement Division crime lab, you know. But these different tools and different toys come at a high expense to the taxpayers. So I don't know if choking off annexation is a good solution. Maybe collapsing governments would be a better solution for the taxpayers.
Let me get back to development. How would you work with Charleston City Council to push for a moratorium, if need be, on destructive developments?
Well, there's no question one is needed. When I ran 4 years ago, my position was strong on moratorium on development, particularly hotels in the historic district.
Okay.
I believe that then, and I believe now. Now, I know council has kind of pushed back against that. I certainly would, if elected mayor, would re-engage that process with my colleagues, trying to understand their thoughts and how they see it, and basically seeing if we could find some common grounds to protect, preserve, and preserve quality of life of Charleston for its citizens, for its residents. I mean, our infrastructure is being choked, you know, and the stormwater runoff, the pressure that it puts on our drainage system, and let's talk about putting $2 billion in the ground to deal with that. Flooding and drainage and everything else, but yet we continue to develop. We continue to encroach upon wetlands, and I mean, think about this. When between 2001 and 2006, 57% of all development in Charleston County was in a FEMA flood plain. I mean, we're just putting people in harm's way. This madness must stop, and it must stop now. So moratorium sounds very, very good to me now as it did 4 years ago.
How would you re-engage the process when it comes to the Palmetto Artisans Program, particularly in the historic district of Charleston?
I think the program is a good program, the Artisan program. I'm not 100% sure what's happening there. I haven't been engaged in that, but if it is certainly something that I would want to see be very successful in Charleston. I think it has a lot to offer the city and its citizens. But I understand there's been a little bit of pushback here and there on a few things here and there, but I'm not really engaged with that. I don't know enough about it to say who is right or who is wrong.
Maurice Washington, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
Anytime.
You bet.
Yes, sir.